Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to welcome everybody to the 14th meeting of the Public Utility Commission for calendar year 2014 and ask that you join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get seated, I'd ask that you join us. This past month, we had a very tragic loss at the Commission. Jason Keene, who was a member of our BCS team, tragically passed away in a motorcycle accident. And I ask that you all join us in a moment of silence in recognizing Jason here this morning. Thank you. The first matter on this morning's agenda is the approval of the minutes from, bless you, Commissioner Whitmer, is the approval of the minutes from the July 9th meeting. And I'd like to recognize Commissioner Cawley as editor of the minutes. Commissioner Cawley.
Thank you, Chairman. I have reviewed the minutes of our July 9th public meeting, and I move that they be approved as submitted.
Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the minutes are approved as submitted. And it's a pleasure to welcome to the podium here this morning to begin our public meeting, Ms. Cheryl Walker-Davis. Good morning, Cheryl.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
May it please the Commission, on behalf of your various offices and bureaus, we present for your consideration and disposition the following agenda items, commencing this morning with matters on behalf of the Bureau of Administration. Those items appearing on page 1 and 2. It should be noted that the matters pertaining to the general assessments upon public utilities for the OCA, the OSBA, the Commission, as well as the assessment upon pipeline operators appearing on page 2 have all been postponed until public meeting of September the 11th. Continuing with matters on behalf of the Bureau of Audits, it is recommended in omnibus fashion that the Commission adopt the various recommendations for the release of audit reports, commencing with the report pertaining to Pike County Light and Power Company's default service charges, and concluding with the Pennsylvania Power Company audit report pertaining to its universal service charges for the 12-month periods ending 10/31/2011 and 2012.
So moved. Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
On behalf of the Bureau of Consumer Services, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the recommendation appearing on page 4 with regard to the final order pertaining to Philadelphia Gas Works Universal Service and Energy Conservation Plan for 2014 to 2016.
So moved. Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
On behalf of the Office of Special Assistance, with regard to the first matter, we recommend the adoption of the staff recommendation in the complaint proceeding involving the Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement versus Black Cab, Inc., TA Yellow Cab and Transfer Company, noting your statement, Mr. Chairman.
So moved. Second. This morning, I'd like to have my my statement entered into the record as if read in its entirety. Before the Commission here this morning is a petition for reinstatement of the CPC filed by Blair County, TA Yellow Cab and Transfer Company. The Commission originally issued Blair County a certificate of public convenience for a call and demand motor carrier authority on March 9th of 1986. However, on July 10th of 2014, the Commission canceled Blair Cab's certificate for failure to maintain evidence of bodily injury and property damage liability insurance on file with the Commission, and it's in direct violation of the Public Utility Code and the PUC's regulations. Additionally, Blair Cab failed to pay its assessment for fiscal year 2012-2013, 2013-2014. These two violations, though the most recent, are not the only ones that this company has had with the Commission. The Commission's Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement has filed 4 other complaints against Blair Cab in the last decade, one of which previously resulted in the cancellation of Blair Cab's certificate for failure to file evidence of insurance with the Commission. Now, in light of the track record of this company, I am concerned that Blair Cab is not taking seriously its obligation to fulfill its statutory duties as a certificated motor carrier here in the Commonwealth. Failure to provide proof of insurance is a serious violation that the Commission does not take lightly. Public safety is fundamental to PUC oversight, and part of that is ensuring that motor carriers transporting the traveling public have adequate lines of insurance. After 2 incidents of having its certificate canceled for failure to provide proof of insurance, Blair Cab is clearly on notice here this morning about its obligation with respect to insurance coverage. Blair has corrected its errors and has filed evidence of insurance with the Commission and has paid all outstanding civil penalties and overdue assessments with the Commission. However, I want to make it clear here this morning, the PUC cautions the company that if it continues to overlook these obligations in the future, Blair Cab's ability to maintain a CPC designation for call and demand service may be jeopardized here. Again, I'd like to have this entered into the record, and if there are any further discussions.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to associate myself with your statement this morning.
So noted. Any further discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously, noting the statement here this morning.
In omnibus fashion, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the recommendations of the Office of Special Assistance, commencing with the recommendation in the proceeding involving core communications arbitration and the recommendation to note for the record the Commission's action taken by notational vote, and continuing with all of the recommendations appearing on page 6 and on page 7 through and including the second recommendation there appearing pertaining to the People's Natural Gas Company's distribution system improvement and long-term infrastructure improvement plan. George.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
It is recommended at the bottom of page 7 that the Commission adopt the staff recommendation in the complaint proceeding involving Brian Sluzovich versus Frontier Communications, noting the statement, your statement, Mr. Chairman, as well as the statement of Commissioner Brown.
So moved.
Second.
Like to just note here this morning, I have a conflict statement, and just noting that Norman Kennard served as counsel for the party in the above mentioned proceeding. Therefore, to avoid any potential conflict from his previous employment, I wish to note that he has not advised me in this particular matter. Now I'd like to recognize Commissioner Brown for purposes of her statement. Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Consistent with Section 1102 of the Commonwealth Ethics Act, I will be recusing myself from this matter because my brother is employed by Frontier Communications.
So noted. Any further discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes 4-0.
In omnibus fashion, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the items on page 8 except the last item pertaining to PPL Electric Utilities Corporation's pilot time of use program, which has been postponed until public meeting of September the 11th. The omnibus continues with all matters appearing on pages 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 through and including the recommendation to adopt the joint petition to accept an interconnection agreement filed in Verizon Pennsylvania LLC and Broadwing Communications LLC.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
Chairman, may I please be recorded on page 7 in the last issue involving Frontier Communications. I wish to be recorded as concurring in the result only.
So noted for the record here this morning. Has the Secretary noted that for the record? Okay, we'll move on.
Commissioner Cawley, that was which page? Did you say?
Page 7, Brian
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, whatever.
Continuing with the presentation of items on behalf of the Bureau of Technical Utility Services in omnibus fashion, it is recommended that the Commission adopt all of the recommendations appearing on pages 16, 17, 18, 19, except the second item pertaining to PennDOT, which has been withdrawn by the Bureau. The omnibus continues with the remaining items on page 19, all items on page 20, the items on page 21, except the RCLEC Inc. item in the middle, which has been postponed until public meeting of September the 11th. The omnibus continues with the remaining item on page 21, as well as all items appearing on pages 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, except the last item at the bottom of page 28 pertaining to Handy Delivery, Inc., which has been withdrawn by the Bureau, and the omnibus continues on page 29, noting that with regard to the last item pertaining to Peoples Natural Gas Company, LLC, Equitable Gas Division, supplement number 7, that the file date should properly be reflected as June the 20th of 2014, not the 7/22 date appearing on the agenda. The omnibus continues to include a recommendation to adopt the staff recommendations of all items on pages 30, 31, and 32 through and including the recommendation pertaining to the security certificate of Aqua Pennsylvania, Inc.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
It is recommended that the Commission adopt, on behalf of the Law Bureau, the recommendations appearing on page 3 pertaining to the proposed rulemaking as it relates to the electronic submission of testimony, as well as the recommendation pertaining to the Peoples Natural Gas Company, LLC, and Peoples Natural Gas Company, LLC, Equitable Division, Universal Service and Energy Conservation Plan.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
Turning now to matters on behalf of the Office of Administrative Law Judge, it is recommended that the Commission adopt ALJ Jandaber's recommended decision in the first item pertaining to Blue Mountain and Reading Railroad.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
It is recommended that the Commission adopt ALJ Caldwell's recommended decision in the item pertaining to PPL Electric Utilities Corporation's proposed transmission service charge reconciliation for 2010 and the transmission service charge effective on June 1st of 2011, noting the statement of Commissioner Whitmer.
So moved.
Second.
I'd like to recognize Commissioner Whitmer for purposes of her statement. Commissioner Whitmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My statement is a conflict statement. I would like it entered into the record as if I'd read it in its entirety. A member of Team Whitmer, Shelby Litton-Ketty, was counsel of record for the PPL Industrial Customer Alliance and has not advised me in any way regarding this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Whitmer. Any further discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously, noting the conflict statement issued by Commissioner Whitmer here this morning.
It is recommended that the Commission adopt ALJ Fordham's initial decision in the proceeding involving Sienna Fongsac versus Pico Energy Company, noting the joint statement of Commissioners Colley and Brown.
So moved.
Second.
I'd like to recognize Commissioner Brown for purposes of the joint statement here this morning. Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before the Commission for consideration is the initial decision issued in the above captioned case. The complainant filed a formal complaint requesting a payment arrangement. A hearing was set for February 13th, 2014. The February 13th date was canceled due to bad weather. By hearing notice dated February 14, 2014, the hearing was rescheduled for April 1st, 2014. The February 14th hearing notice sent to the complainant was returned to the Commission as undeliverable. The Commission was unable to reach the complainant by phone. The complainant, of course, did not then appear at the April 1st, 2014 hearing, and the ALJ concluded that the complainant is obliged to report a change in address which occurs during the course of the proceeding pursuant to our regulations. The ALJ dismissed the case with prejudice for failure to carry the burden of proof. Because notice of the rescheduled hearing did not reach the complainant, we question whether due process has been afforded to the complainant. As such, the case should have been dismissed. We don't disagree with that, but it should have been dismissed without prejudice.
So noted. Any further discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously, noting the joint statement here this morning from Commissioner Brown and Commissioner Colley.
Continuing to page 35, it is recommended at the top that the Commission adopt ALJ Pell's recommended decision in the general rate increase proceeding involving Pike County Light and Power Gas Division.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
It is recommended that the Commission adopt ALJ Dunderdale's recommended decision in the proceeding involving Peoples Natural Gas Company, LLC, Equitable Gas Division's 2014 purchase gas cost rate filing, noting the statement of Commissioner Cawley.
So moved.
Second?
I'd like to recognize Commissioner Cawley for purposes of a statement. Commissioner Cawley.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a settlement in a purchase gas cost filing by Peoples Natural Gas Company and their Equitable Division. As my colleagues have heard me say many times before, I'm very sensitive to lost and unaccounted for gas by natural gas companies because we look at this as a measure of how prudent the expense is because customers have to pay for it. And therefore, we are sensitive to the fact that natural gas companies should keep their leakage rates down as low as possible. I note in this case that the 3-year historical average used to establish what's called the retainage rate, which is charged to natural gas suppliers as their share of this system loss of natural gas, was set using a figure, using the lost and unaccounted for gas percentage. Therefore, of course, if the lost and unaccounted for gas figure is high, the retainage rate is higher. And in this case, as far as I can see, no natural gas supplier was in the case and was there to try to keep that retainage rate down. That's to their detriment. I therefore encourage natural gas suppliers to participate in these purchase gas filings, not only to protect themselves, but to help me keep the utilities' feet to the fire, if you will, to keep this lost and unaccounted for gas figure low. Historically, Equitable has been relatively successful in reducing its unaccounted for gas. Over the past 5 years, it has reduced it from 9% to 5%. But in the last 2 years, there was an actual increase in 2013. Therefore, as I don't wish to be too hard on Peoples here because they have acquired Equitable and they are assimilating that company into their system. But I urge Peoples and Equitable itself to continue to keep the unaccounted for gas level low and to redouble their efforts. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Cawley. And I just simply take this opportunity as we approve the merger of Peoples Natural Gas and Equitable that you have an entity here in Peoples Natural Gas that has made a steadfast commitment under the provisions set forth in the DISC mechanism with accelerated replacement of cast iron bare steel. And I think you echoed that in your statement here this morning. Another interesting point to mention about this company is the leadership role they've taken on advocating the need for supplier competition within their footprint. In fact, at one point was considering a filing with us to completely abandon default gas service with us. So again, I hear what you're saying here this morning. I'd wish to associate myself with you with 2 caveats. One is we recognize the fact that the company is moving aggressively to replace the Equitable division, cast iron bare steel pipe, and more importantly, the operational discipline to operate the system safely. And I think that's something they've done remarkably well.
And I agree, and I ask that my statement be included in the record in its entirety.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously, noting Commissioner Cawley's statement.
And it is recommended that the Commission adopt ALJ Long's recommended decision recommending approval of the settlement in the Commission's investigation pertaining to West Penn Power Company's compliance with Act 129, appearing at the bottom of page 35.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
And Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, that concludes the presentation of regular agenda items. Turning now to the carry-in agenda. It is recommended on behalf of the Office of Competitive Market Oversight that the Commission adopt the recommendation to release the tentative order, which summarizes comments filed in the investigation of PA's retail natural gas market, as well as identifies issues to improve the marketplace and to encourage competition for Pennsylvania consumers.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I have a brief verbal statement.
Surely, I'd like to recognize Commissioner Whitmer.
Thank you. It's almost a year ago that Commissioner Cawley and I and all of our colleagues launched the effort to examine the current state of the natural gas retail market. And obviously, a lot has happened during that intervening time period. And I would like to take just a second to thank our staff for the hard work that they have done to get us to this point, as well as all the commenters who submitted comments on the order addressing the questions that we'd posed. But I'd also like to say that based on those comments, the shortcomings that we saw through our investigation of the electric retail market, as well as the polar vortex, I remain convinced that there are significant obstacles to having customers realize all the benefits of the market. And I'm especially concerned that we not do anything that prohibits customers from recognizing and taking full advantage of what I like to call the mighty Marcellus that we have here in Pennsylvania. And having said all that, however, I'd like to also remind commenters that as we progress with this tentative order, that the commenters should not seek to rehash issues, but that we should be looking to move forward with how we make this market much more open and robust. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Whitmer. I appreciate your leadership on this issue, and also recognize, as you mentioned here this morning, the work of Office of Competitive Market Oversight. Is there any further discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, the next three items pertain to exceptions filed by various parties with regard to standing issues. In the first two matters pertain to the application proceeding of Lyft, Inc., the first one being with regard to the provision of transportation network service in Allegheny County, the second one being with regard to the provision of transportation network service in Pennsylvania. And with regard to those two items, the Commission conducted notational votes, granting exceptions, thereby permitting the Insurance Federation of Pennsylvania to participate in those proceedings. And the Commission's vote was 3-2, with you as well as Commissioner Whitmer dissenting on that vote. The first two recommendations are acknowledging for the record and the minutes of this public meeting that notational vote, and it is recommended that the acknowledgement of that vote be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously, and I guess I don't get to explain myself why I voted no in the notational.
Well,
Is that
of course
correct?
you can.
We'll save that for the en banc.
The third item reference is similar. It pertains to the application of Razier of the PA LLC and its application for experimental transportation network service. Once again, exceptions were filed to a standing issue here on behalf of the Insurance Federation as well as JB Taxi. The Commission voted again by notational through the notational process to permit those protests to move forward. However, that too was a 3-2 vote, and it is recommended that that notational vote be recorded and entered into the minutes of this public meeting. Again, you and Commissioner Whitmer were the dissenting votes there.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
And continuing on to page 3 of the carry-on agenda, the next three items pertain to petitions for interlocutory review that were filed in the proceeding involving the various Lyft applications. In each of those three instances, the Commission declined to review material questions that were filed, and it is recommended that the Commission adopt the recommendation of OSA to note for the record those three items, noting that the votes in those proceedings were 5-0.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
And now turning to the recommendation of the Bureau of Technical Utility Service at the bottom of page 4 in the proceeding involving the PPL Electric Utilities Corporation and the request for expedited approval to exercise an option to extend final procurements under its currently effective default service procurement. We recommend the adoption of the staff recommendation there appearing.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the presentation of agenda items.
And with no other items to come before the commission, one.
One, with all of the items I neglected to mention, we have another Gettysburg College intern with us,
How
Mr.
did
Drew
I
Horton,
not
that we would simply like to
recognize
acknowledge.
a proud Gettysburg undergraduate student here this morning. Why don't we give a recognition? I met the young man here this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for your dedication to your alma mater.
Thank you.
And with that, there are no other items to come before the commission here this morning. We are adjourned.